It's episode 81 of the Improv London podcast. I'm your host, Stuart Moses, and this week's guest is John Guelke. You're allowed to cheer.
Hey! Hello, thank you very much for having me on the podcast.
Thank you very much for being on the podcast. How are you? Once again, starting with the tough questions.
Great. I'm somehow still on my feet. I'm been living in Blue Orange Theatre. We've had 5 nights of shows, and the two of us are on the second day of an intensive workshop with John Bolden, which has been fantastic.
Yes.
And one more afternoon and evening, and then another afternoon and evening of shows tomorrow, and then I can collapse in a heap.
Have you done it all so far?
I've been around for all of the shows, yes.
Wow,
yeah.
Cool. What's if you had to choose a highlight? They've all been good, obviously.
Oh, wow.
Who would you choose as a highlight?
I thought the committee last night were fantastic.
Cool. What sort of stuff do they do?
So it's long form. They got just a seed word to begin with, and then a series of scenes off that. But their way of linking from one scene to another, very organic. Like the salt in the waves in this scene become salt on fish and chips in the next scene, and move on to that. And it was very quick, very funny, but also very, very rich. I think it went down with a lot of the Birmingham improvisers I know very, very well.
Yes.
Personal highlights as well. Rhymes Against Humanity on Monday. I loved. Really funny. Doing great musical improv. Really, really fun, but with kind of rich material to work with to turn into the laughs. I had seen before Heather and Jules's 10,000 Million Love Stories, which was a great night on Tuesday. The Maydays last night, doing really dark work, but really enthralling and affecting, and just so pleased to have it in the festival here, because something that really widens out the audience here's understanding of what improv can be.
Yes, no, it's really interesting when you are able to see acts that you're not normally able to see, and just to see what is possible. And you might decide to do that, or you might just be inspired to do something different. And one of the things I wanted to do when I came up was to see the local acts, because it's very exciting, because you don't know what the format's going to be, you don't know what they're going to do, and they've all been delightful.
Oh, great! Really, I mean, I've not been in any of the ones that you've seen, but I'm very pleased you've enjoyed the local. I'll take credit on their behalf, unjustly.
It's still credit. So how did you get involved in improv? What lit the flame?
Okay, so I've been improvising for about 4 years now, and it's sort of my wife's fault. I was doing some comic writing, kind of sketchy stuff, or to be more accurate, I wasn't doing comic writing. Like I never finished anything. I just didn't have the discipline to keep going with it. But my wife had just kind of seen somewhere on the internet an interview with Stephen Colbert, where he was kind of singing the praises of improv for what it had given him, not just professionally, but the kind of I think acceptance of failure. I think the thing my wife took from the interview was this acceptance of failure thing, John. This would be good for you, and it was. So I googled to see if there was any improv in the city, and results came up for Foghorn, who we will see this afternoon, and for Box of Frogs, which is kind of John Trevor's kind of group and workshop and teaching and stuff. And I went along to one of his workshops, had a brilliant time, and haven't looked back since.
Cool. What sort of, it's a hard question, but what sort of improviser are you? What are you good at? What do you struggle with?
Ooh, I think where I struggle most is I don't come in quick enough. I always want to kind of wait back, take kind of know where I am, and then work within that. I think, which can be to my advantage, but I think forcing myself to not wait for safety is probably the thing I most want to conquer and get better at.
Yeah. And what are you good at?
Well, what I'm always very comfortable with is anything musical. Because my background performance-wise is musical theatre and opera.
Ah, right.
So although I'd been trying writing, I had been performing regularly in a lot of Gilbert and Sullivan, of all things, and opera and musicals. It's mostly student and amateur stuff, but there's also the fantastic local institution, Birmingham Opera Company, directed by one of the greatest directors in the world, and that's a great thing that a non-professional can get involved in and get kind of world-class direction and be a part of a world-class show in.
Wow.
So the very first workshop that I went to, run by John Trevor, happened to be silly musical games. It was kind of blues and hoedowns and Irish drinking song, and it was a little bit nerve-wracking, but it was a really nice introduction for me, and I always jump to try and sort of take those games if I can when I'm in the short form shows. Anything where I get to be a big character or show a lot of emotion, makes me pleased. So in short form games, in short form shows, I'll try to snaffle up a "What are you trying to say?" or Oscar-winning moment if I can.
What are you trying to say? What goes there?
That's. What are you trying to say? You have a normal scene until somebody says something innocuous, to which the other has to say, "What are you trying to say?" and build on that and take it to as strange and unlikely a place as possible. Like, you say I make a nice lasagna. You saying I just spend all my time at home cooking? Are you saying that I'm a social shut-in? Are you saying that I'm a outcast and failure in life and that no one will ever love me? Is that what you're trying to say? And so on.
Right, yes. And I've done that, but I've not heard it call that. It's very interesting, and it's come up quite a few episodes in that and I think it happens a lot, is that everybody has their own names for games. But you can't even rely on the game being the same, even if it's got the same name, because everyone's coming up with their
local
own
rules.
Local rules. Local rules, isn't it? Yeah, it's a very good way of putting it. So it's really interesting that you've got these kind of skills, the singing, the light opera, and is it specifically light opera rather than opera?
It's mostly light opera that I've been in, but I've got quite a heavy voice, so I've done kind of heavier, louder roles as well. If there's ever a game of gibberish opera on, that's quite a fun thing to have in the back pocket as well.
Yes, I've got this. It's really nice when you've got something like that you can draw upon, so you're not left. it's enjoyable both ways for the audience. If someone has got no idea and they commit, that's brilliant. But if you are able to do it, that's also astounding as well. So, and you're channeling your musical skills and knowledge into forming a new group, I hear.
Yes, off Broad Street.
Broad Street being a street in Birmingham, I have learnt recently.
That is correct.
And they poon or play on words on Broadway. I love it.
Yeah. I suppose I first started thinking about doing this after going to the Osher Leela May Days retreat. Had a fantastic time there, did a lot of musical stuff.
That's what I did when I was there.
Just so much fun. And having chatted with one of the members of Rhymes Against Humanity Jamie Lee, kind of talked more about trying to get some musical stuff going on in Birmingham. And then a couple of months later, I got Lloydie down to teach a workshop, and put the word out to local improvisers. One's already that I played with lots, like people in Box of Frogs, but also people beyond that. So we got some people from Baron Sternlook, who you'll have seen the other day, and Jen Kenny from The Same Faces came along as well, and basically just sort of coming out of that, people who took part in that workshop. We've now got a group. We're rehearsing in this in the same building where we're recording this podcast.
You can tell them where we are.
The Welsh Congregationalist Church, close to the Blue Orange Theatre, where we've just had this intensive with John Bolden, to do musical long form, which has existed in Birmingham in the form of the Baron Sternlook group, and also I think the students have done some of it, but I want to do it and do it my way, we've been having a lot of fun with it, and done some spots at local nights. Like Lee Dempsey runs a kind of open mic night for improv groups, freewheelers. We did a spot there. We did a spot down at Rich Code's night in Coventry, WOW, on the spot comedy. And we'll keep doing those. Eventually, I'd like to set up a night of our own, but that's a few months down the line, I think.
You say you want to do it your way. Tell me more about what's your way.
Okay, so I want to be able to do some kind of slower burn improv, which emphasises the things that I think the group of people that we have together do well, particularly character and relationship. I have a weird relationship with plot in that, for the most part, I don't like it.
Right.
And I hate seeing really good improvisers do work that isn't as good because they're trying to crowbar elements of plot in, rather than just finding the most interesting thing in the scene.
Yes.
So we're playing around with different formats, not a million miles from a sort of basic Harold structure, but trying to work off whatever improvisers come up with in a first scene, and just kind of try and deepen the most interesting parts of that around character and relationship.
That sounds great.
And use music to kind of just get to the deeper bits of that.
Yes.
So that the music's in service to the improv.
Yeah, no, it's a really great way of unlocking emotion.
Exactly.
Heightening that very quickly. And I think sometimes people will reveal things, maybe emotions, in songs that they may shy away from in just, normal acting. Yeah. So you've got an accompanist?
Yes, there are a couple of different musicians who have been involved with us. The most common regular keyboardist with Box of Frogs as well is Guelke. Fantastic musician. We've also had Will Tuckwell, who has played for the local student groups and also with Notflix and does lots of improv work. And Aaron Sood, who played for the Watch This on Thursday night. Another great musician. And another young guy, James Dickinson. So a cracking keyboardist who hadn't done improv before. I think he had done a lot of jazz, but the guy I've set up off Broad Street with, Jacob Stanbridge, has sort of introduced me to nearly all of these keyboardists other than Geddes. Really useful because so often finding musicians is the bottleneck for this thing.
Yes, that's I would say exactly that is the issue. So it's great that you've got a pool of people to draw from. So are you taking a suggestion at the beginning of the show?
So at the moment, what we're working with is we've been asking for a setting first.
How do you phrase that?
I think I asked for if I can have a setting for a musical, and maybe give some examples of ones that we've done recently to give people the idea of what we want. Usually take a couple and then get a vote from the audience. So our first setting. When we did the Freewheelers night, we ended up in a graveyard.
Right. Okay.
And then I asked for a title, and we got given "Over My Dead Body."
Nice. Yeah. That's nice. It's clever enough without being too clever. Because sometimes if you get too good a title, it does all the work, and you're a bit left with nothing.
Yeah, and also increasingly. We were finding even just in rehearsal, putting the shout out. Okay, someone shout out a title for something. It gets people's heads in the wrong place, and people trying to reach for something clever rather than reach for something rich.
Yeah.
Whereas asking for a setting, actually, people think about something that's interesting to look at.
Yes. I'm just interested in how you manage. These suggestions. So if you got taxidermist office, would you do that, or would you try and steer it towards something more interesting, presuming that we've all done lots of scenes with taxidermists because we're improvisers and that seems to come up a lot?
Well, what I've done is kind of when asking for settings, pick up about 5 of them and then get a sort of an audience cheers, which is good because you're warming people up anyway.
Yes.
Although I'm also wondering if you kind of know once the title's been shouted out or the setting's been shouted out that the audience wants to see. Like there's a certain electricity in the room.
I mean, and how much can you influence the one that you want to do by putting it last? Is that a thing? I think that's a thing.
Yeah,
not using you specifically. But
I haven't used that yet,
right.
But that is probably sensible. Earlier this week, I think I saw one of the improv shows kind of steer audience towards the suggestion that they wanted by kind of reacting with great favour to it.
I'm thinking about Notflix when we had the opportunity of Dunkirk or Blade Runner.
Oh yes, there was. I was thinking of another one, that's the same thing, and that's. I think that's perfectly.
And I just thought, let's just do Blade Runner because Dunkirk is going to be it's just going to be painful for everybody, and
Yeah. Also, kind of they said that they had already done it, and I think it's totally fine to say to an audience, no, not pineapple, we've done that.
Yes,
and it's an excuse that also has the benefit of being true.
Yes, yeah.
I mean, with all of the ones that are a bit hackneyed.
Yes, I'm not doing anything Trump or Brexit.
Yeah.
Let's just not do that, because the world's a terrible place. Don't let them ruin Improv as well.
Yeah.
Because I don't have anything new or interesting to say on those topics. If you are an expert or you have a new twist, by all means go for it. But I'm just, I don't know. I mean, I'm prepared to make it up, but I want to have some say in curating the show so the maximum amount of people have the maximum amount of fun.
Yeah. And with kind of Trump and Brexit, again, I mean, we've taken in the Box of Frogs shows, enough versions of things close to that I'd feel like I wasn't breaking my contract with the audience if I was to say, now we've done it, can I have another suggestion?
Yeah.
Let's have some more suggestions.
Yes, yeah, and that's fine. I mean, there's a big debate about whether you should always take the first suggestion or whether you can take a couple and choose. And I say this quite a lot on the podcast, and it is to do with the quality of the improvisation rather than the quality of the suggestion. But on the other hand, there's just sometimes I think you can maximise your chances of you having fun, the audience having fun by steering it a bit. Yeah.
And also, they'll only think that you've broken your contract with them if you act as if taking the first suggestion that they give is like a special rule for yourself. If you act like what you do is you take a bunch of things and find something among them.
Yes. Yes, most audience members, I would say, don't even know that that's a thing.
Yeah.
Taking the first suggestion, as long as you you don't even have to take a suggestion, but if you're, it's a whole other debate.
Yeah.
My thing with acts is that if you're not going to take a suggestion, just do it. Don't tell us you're not going to take a suggestion, because that annoys me. It's like, fine, don't take a suggestion, but you don't need to point that out. I don't know why. It just annoys me. I'm easily annoyed. I also think, because I'm quite tired, I've just said things on this podcast that I would not normally say. I mean, that's hardly a controversial thing, so that's fine. Yeah. When you're performing, do you like to give your fellow performers gifts, or do you prefer to kind of mess with them?
I probably could do with messing with them more on the whole. I'm probably more of a gift giver, I think.
Which is lovely.
I like giving an improviser a situation or an endowment or something that I know that they're going to kind of be grateful for and is going to get them playing in the way that they want to. But the phrase that a couple of us around here have started using, and I can't remember where it comes from originally, but I could do with being more pirate, I think, as an improviser. On this, someone came back from a workshop or a retreat with a distinction between what percentage professor, what percentage poet, and what professor pirate each improviser is, and I'm not very pirate.
Oh, I've not heard that. I've heard pirate, robot, ninja.
So
tell me more about professor, poet, and pirate.
Yeah.
What are those three things?
So professor, kind of trying to be clever, trying to solve it.
Right.
Like, what's the thing that kind of explains this scene or links it to ties up all of the neat bows or cleverly makes this scene about something else.
Right.
Poet, kind of tapping into emotion and the human experience and all that is beautiful and important in life, and the pirate is the one that throws bombs in and makes shakes everything up and leaves the rest of the performers trying to desperately make sense of stuff again. But it adds so much.
Yes.
So you need all of them. You need a range of
Yeah.
all of those.
And was there a percentage of people who are?
I think that the conceit that was explained to me was, the perfect improviser should be about 45% professor, about 45% poet, and about 10% pirate.
That sounds like a sensible arrangement of scores. Yeah. And where are you?
Well, much more the first two. I guess I do also like sort of justifying and solving and coming up with clever connections. And with my musical stuff, I love rhymes, but they're a terrible trap for me. Yes. Because I especially with my past doing silly Gilbert and Sullivan stuff, I love it if I can get a rhyme in for, I don't know, administration or Brexit or having had enough of exports or some kind of horrible kind of pressing together of words to get that kind of sort of show-offy achievement. But if you kind of fall down the hole of trying to think of the clever rhyme, it cuts off the stuff that's important.
Yeah.
But I would like to think that I'm very poet, because that tends to be the stuff I most admire and love in other improvisers. But I'm probably at least 50%, if more, professor, like 30 to 40%.
Right. Okay.
Poet, and need to be more pirate.
Okay. Cool. It's interesting, sort of the goals you set yourself in. When you're doing something like this, how do you get better?
Just keep doing it.
Yeah.
Is the best that I've been able to come up with. These are all muscles, and they need regular use. Play with a range of people. Kind of playing in better and better shows does help, but so also does playing with people who are less experienced, and the having to go through the discipline of putting out fires in a scene with a less experienced improviser is itself very good training for all of the other improv you're going to get to do. I kind of go to good instructors. We're very lucky in Birmingham to have John Trevor in particular, who's basically created the scene that is here, other than that which is grown up at the university. Kind of his instruction, the workshop instructors he's gotten from out of town, the Oshalila retreat, fantastic, and Tom Young, who you spoke to
British
recently,
Improv Project,
will have told you about the British Improv Project. Before it was called the British Improv Project, I was at that in April and had a very good time.
Cool. Can you tell me a little bit about that experience, because I've not been yet?
So it was arriving Friday evening, leaving Sunday afternoon. Improvisers from around the country, so getting to know people in particular. I remember from the Sheffield scene, some from the Manchester scene, and of course Leicester and Nottingham, and getting to meet people from all around the country and play with them and learn from them, and kind of exchange our stories of being involved in this.
That's a great way
form.
to learn, is to just meet other people and find out how they do it, learn from them, cross pollinate, and that's something I'm really really interested and excited about at the moment. So that sounds great. Cool. So, final question: what would you like to see more of in the future, either for you, for the scene in the Midlands, or improv in general? You can answer it in any of those ways.
Ooh. I'd really like to see improv being understood by audiences beyond short form games. I mean, we have a great short form night, the Box of Frogs night, which has a lovely audience, and now we've got a bunch of new groups coming up, but the improv beyond short form games just isn't as widely known and understood, and audiences don't really know what they're getting, and they should, because it's fantastic.
Yes.
And I would really like to see kind of improv as an art form at its highest levels, kind of understood and appreciated, and for that audience to get built up.
Brilliant. That sounds fantastic. I think we could all get behind that. Brilliant. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thank you, Stuart.
Cheers. Thank you.
I made this.
That's improv!